it's Laura Joy. I wanted to talk about children's books for a second and my opinions on some things with children's content. Now, I'm not very educated on the topic, so I'll do my best. This is just how I view it. So children's books. Children learn the way they're taught. They will imitate what they see, and that's who they become. So if you treat a kid like a kid, if you treat a kid like a kid, or if you treat them like they don't know what they're talking about, or if you treat them like, if you talk to them a certain way, they start talking like that, down to little tiny forms of communication, they'll do it. I know because I'm one of those people who will mimic what other people are doing very well. I do it very well. And I'm aware of it, but a kid's not always aware of it. So if the book is treating them like they don't know what they're doing, they're going to feel that. They're going to grow up thinking this is how I treat other people when they're this age, or other people when they're like me. And it kind of messes with their empathetic side, if that makes sense. So I think that at that age, when children are learning how to read, yes, it should be simpler. And honestly, children like a little bit things that are a little bit different than adults do. Adults have been through things, and we like things that relate to our side of us that is sad. And not everybody actually has experienced everything that the next person has. So, that's another subject. But staying on track. Kids need to be taught to speak intelligently with good sentence structuring because society demands it. I know that's not really how people talk. People don't talk with perfect sentence structuring that's built into a computer. They don't talk that way. We talk in weird ways all the time and say things that don't make sense to the last thought we had because our mind is jumping 2 or 3 steps ahead. Sometimes we say something before the time to say it, or we forget a word. I do that. But I think that kids should be taught how to speak when they're young, so they don't end up in a mental facility for talking weird to a psychiatrist. We need to learn how to do these things when we're young. We can't just be thrown into these situations and expect to ace them. We need to learn about it before we're thrown into that situation. Obviously, they don't even do that to you in school, so why would you do it to a random person that has never been through that, hasn't prepared for it? It's not fair. It's not right. And it's just craziness. Okay, that's another thing. Craziness. Why do kids act crazy? Why do they do things that parents don't like and scream and yell? And why do they run around the house? Why do they act in ways that you don't like? And shouldn't they know you? Shouldn't they know that? But they don't. They're their own person. They just came into this world and they don't know you. Even if you're their mom, even if you're their dad, they don't know you. They just came into the world. Like, how are they supposed to know that you don't like something sometimes? So it's like you gotta teach them, I don't like this. Society doesn't like this. And you gotta tell them, this is how you act in this situation. Because they don't know. And you gotta give them some grace and not be so angry at them for no reason. They don't know why you're angry. So it's just a complicated subject dealing with kids. I think they run around the house screaming because they're happy. And they're trying to see like how the sound affects them when they say it aloud, like how it bounces back. They're trying to see that. They're very scientific. Kids are very scientific. They have to be to understand the world. So it's not like a scientist was not born. Okay, it's not like a scientist was born different than anybody else. They were born the same. They just kept at something over time, that side of them that helped them develop that thing. Maybe they had parents that encouraged it or were like, hey, this is something you're good at, and they told them, and they helped them set up boundaries around that subject so that they can figure out ways around that boundary to get to the solution. Does that make sense? It's just like scientists aren't different than other people. They're not different than kids. You have to learn certain skills, yes, over time. And my belief is that every person is very much like the next. Not to say that people are not special or they're not different, but a patient is no different than a psychiatrist. The only difference is that the psychiatrist learned about life in a different way than the patient. The patient is there as a patient, representing what they were in the past, who they are now, and where they're going in life. The same for the psychiatrist. They were something in the past. They learned certain skills in the past that helped them get to where they are now, that will help them in the future either stay where they are, which is not very good for your brain, by the way. Either stay where they are or progress to something else. I think that people make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, even psychiatrists. They will make mistakes. But the difference between the psychiatrist and the patient is that the psychiatrist didn't make the same mistake. They got on people's good side in the government. They learned certain things in school. They understood that discipline in this subject will get them to where they want, will get them in power of other people. They understood that. Now, the patient knew nothing about it. They didn't know anything about why they should learn a certain skill. Sometimes it's stubbornness. I do think that should be another thing I talk about, is stubbornness. But it's like the stubbornness sometimes prevents you from learning things that you should. But anyway, it's like that patient didn't know. He just didn't know. He was ignorant of the subject. Not saying that a person is ignorant. That's not who you are. Never. That's never who you are. It's just a state of being for a time. Doesn't mean that is who you are all the time, you know? So, it's like back to kids. Kids, they imitate what they learn. And if you write a book in a way that calls them stupid, they know. Um, if you write a book in a way that uh, doesn't have a complete thought, doesn't go into too much detail about things that can't form a complete picture, they have to look at the picture, associate the word with the picture, then you say the word and the picture pops up in their mind. So the more words and pictures they can learn and associate with each other, the more words they can form, the more intelligent they'll be. So if you don't teach them, they don't know how to deal with this. So they just go haywire and they just figure out things themselves. So they have no other choice but to. So I think teaching kids is really important. You, as the parent, being there for them. I know people have jobs, but the reason you have the job is because you have a kid. And your job is also to be their parent. It's not to mess around with your friends at work. I'm sorry, but it's not. Your job is to be with your kid. That's my job. And long story short, I can't do that, and it's not my choice. But it's still my job. She is still my responsibility. And that's never going to change. No matter what happens in life, I still have an obligation to act in a certain way around her, to act in a certain way when I'm not around her, and to be who I am so I can show her how to be who I am, to be who she is. You know, I still have a responsibility to my kid. But back to speaking and children. Children, I think books for children. I like the books that are stories, and I actually don't really like too many fantasy books because you can waste your time on that. But some fantasy books, you should read some fantasy books because they came from somewhere, you know, and just to get you wondering why something happened is a skill in itself. So it's like, I think that people should write books that have more of a picture to it, so they have to work a little bit harder to kind of conjure up that image, so they can work on their comprehension at a younger age, so they're not lost and bewildered when they go to school and mom's not there and dad's not there to help explain something to them, and they're just thrown into this, like, either they're teaching them something that's super simple and they're like, I know, or they're teaching them something that's too complicated and they've never seen it before, so they're like, how do I deal with this? It just throws you off and it makes you stressed out and it makes you act up and it makes you not know how to act, you know, not know how to handle your emotions, being thrown into situations too quickly or without the proper guidance. So, yeah, I think that's all I have to say right now. I could talk for hours about this. My situation is I grew up homeschooled. my parents were pretty on top of me learning how to read and write and do math. My mom did like marshmallow math with me, and that's like when you add things with marshmallows and then at the end you eat them and then you subtract how many you ate and stuff like that. It's like that was really good because there was a reward involved and there was a sugary aspect to it, so it got my dopamine up and I was like, oh yay, marshmallows. But you, you know how like you hear your favorite song and it triggers that dopamine in your mind? Yeah, it's like you learn math and it's exciting to you because it triggers that memory of that dopamine coming up, and then you like think math and then you think marshmallows and then you think, oh, dopamine. That was fun. You think, oh, that was fun. And you're like, when something's fun, you try to figure more out about it. That's just how we do it. I don't know. It's just, um, last thing I have to say, treat kids like adults. Because they're little adults. But don't expect them to have a ton of responsibility. Just help them. Because they need your help. And be there for them. And if you're a kid, which you shouldn't be a kid and watching my channel, but if you're a kid and you are watching my channel, know that you're awesome. Know that so this is what I believe. I believe that God is there for you even when nobody else is. And I have to believe that because a lot of times nobody else is there. But just know somebody always cares about you. So, yeah. I think I should go. Anyway, see ya. Bye.